Hey guys, cool. I think it's all ready. I was waiting for the chat on the stream to get worked out, but let me just post this on Twitter. Let everyone know that they can now join us, and then we'll get started. Let me know how the audio is. Cool, and thank you all for being here. Yeah, and if you, hi, Ryoku the Slayer, if you have questions, just let me know. It's actually, let me know a bunch of questions. So, basically, what I want to talk about today is I'm going to be going over this system for controlling the lines, and this is kind of what I was working on this weekend, and it's a good example, I feel, of how a lot of, how basically the design and the programming for this game and how everything ties together. So what I'll do is I'll kind of explain first how this functions, right? So the line seems like a really simple thing, but it's actually this something that you have to really think about what the mechanics are and how everything is designed together. So okay, let me rotate just to get those button prompts out of the way. They're there because when you first start the game, it's supposed to show you what the buttons are, but we need to get rid of that. So basically, I've got this line. I've got this square switch. There's a line connecting it to the door, and the idea is that when I put the right color box on the right color square, it opens a door. And it used to be that the line would light up instantly, but what I've added now is this, you know, the light travels along this path, and once it gets to the door, it opens. Right now, the light turns off instantly, but that's something I can change. I've sort of programmed it into the logic, so I can just change it in the inspector. So again, if you look at the line, it's going to travel to the door. Once it hits the door, then it opens. So filling and unfilling. So I'll talk about the way it's built, right? So basically, every part of the line, every segment is made up of a number of different components. Now, there is the line object, the line corner, and that's it. And then with the corner, you can have them either inverted or not inverted. So what I mean by that is this is so basically, because I only want, so for example, let's say this is, so the normal corner bends to the right, and this corner bends to the left. So I didn't want to have two different textures, so what I did was for the corner, I gave you an option to say corner invert, and what it does is then in the code, it flips the texture or along the center. So that way I don't need like two different textures, or, you know, a corner piece for right, a corner piece for left. And the logic that happens is you have this line manager which controls all of these, and so it goes down, so they have to be placed in the order from the square switch to the door. And now this line manager controls all that. Now you can see in this door, you need to turn on two switches in order to open this door. So this door actually deals with two line managers listening to it. So now what's tricky about this? So, all right, so let's jump into the code and kind of take a look at how this is done. Right, so I have this, all right, so the line itself, maybe let's see if this is working. So I started off this weekend kind of just working with one line to make sure that the shader was working. All right, so let's not look at, so this is basically just the line without the box, without kind of the logic controlling it. And let's just say this is a fill test, right? So that's just saying fill. This is unfilling. It's a little bit screwed up right now, actually. This is reverse fill, reverse unfill. Again, because I just made some changes to the shader. Instant fill, instant unfill. So I wrote this short test to kind of make sure that I was able to call all these different functions that I wanted inside this object. And the difference between fill and reverse fill is they're filling from different directions. So you can see with fill, it is traveling from the bottom of the screen to the top. That's where the light is going. All right. Now, okay, let's unfill that. Now, reverse fill is going to come from the top of the screen to the bottom. And basically, so reverse unfill does the same thing. And instant fill just fills it up instantly, and instant unfill just unfills it instantly. And I wanted to have all these options so that in the game I can start testing. Because sometimes, you know, originally I had it where it filled up instantly and it unfilled instantly. But then I added the light traveling, and I thought that looked kind of cool. And then someone was like, oh, you know, what if you had, when you took the box away, the light traveled back to the square? And when I showed that to someone, said, well, you know, actually, maybe what if you tried it where you took the box away and the light actually unfilled from the square to the door? So anyway, there were a bunch of options, and I was like, well, what I'll do is I'll just make sure that they all work so I can go inside, you know, just so they're not hard-coded in. And what I can do is, when I'm designing in the inspector, then choose what, you know, how I want the line to fill and unfill. And what was really tricky was, for a long time when this was first implemented, a lot of the properties of the line were set up here. So for example, even right now you can see there's some legacy stuff where in the line manager itself I can choose what kind of filling I want. I can do instant fill, instant infill, use default fill direction, use default unfill direction. And I also had, I took this out just a few hours ago, but I also had you could choose the variable of how fast you wanted the light to travel. Yes, so Ryoku the Slayer brings up this point where you can use that for a time race kind of thing. And the things I actually don't want that to be a puzzle, so this light filling is actually more of a visual effect. It does give player feedback because it lets you know that this is the light is going from the square to the door, and that's actually all I want. I don't actually want it to be a timing puzzle. So that's also something to consider. And again, it's like you don't. So you know, the thing is that's why instant fill and instant unfill are there. So, for example, if I implement this kind of filling thing, and regardless of how fast it goes, people always want to try to rush for the door and beat the light, then that tells me maybe I should just go with an instant unfill so that people don't get the wrong idea. So anyway, so you can see for a long time I had the logic of how the line should fill up in the line manager. And this makes sense because you're thinking, okay, I want this line to light up this way and I want it to light up that way. The problem is you can actually have a number of different filling types per line. Not in this, but in some of the later mechanics. So maybe there are instances where if you take the cube off the square, then the light unfills from the square to the door. But maybe if there's a problem with the door, then you actually want it to return backwards. So it doesn't, what I'm saying is it didn't make sense to kind of choose one fill type or one unfill type for the line. Right, there's like a bunch of different ones. So what really makes sense is in each case, in each thing that uses line, in this case it's this cube square activator, that every time it calls the line, it should just tell it which direction, is it filling, is it unfilling, and how fast it should go. So I'm going to jump into the code now. Alright, so jumping back in the code now. So, okay. So anyway, you can see there's this line activator line manager. Oh, and then another really cool thing is we also have from the line manager, what I can do is I can change the different gravities. Now this actually does make sense to have on the line itself, because there are instances where a line isn't directly connected to a square, and it can be so you can, and it also doesn't make sense to have like green lines always facing this direction. So it's actually, this is good. Now the way I'm basically doing this is, and I'll get to that inside the script. Actually, so I'll talk about that first. So the way we're setting the color, the material of the line in the editor is this function called onValidate. This is a Unity function. Basically, when the script is loaded or when you change the value in the inspector, it calls this function. So basically what I'm doing is every time you do onValidate, onValidate, what it does is you can have multiple interfaces associated with this. So this door is has an interface called iLine interactable, which tells it that it's like, okay, this is an object that can interact with lines. And basically, hey Edriofer, how's it going? I was just kind of today I'm kind of going over a lot of the programming stuff with the line, and which I think is, it seems like a really small thing, but it actually shows a lot about the design of the game. And why I kind of need, I can't just be designing stuff, I have to always be working with programming, like programming and design have to go hand in hand. So let's see. Alright, so basically it checks to see if you've updated. So there is, I don't have them in the game right now, but I could theoretically have two doors be opened by one line. It's like I could have a line that splits up. Have I tried putting the cube on the button and then rapidly taking it off? Yeah, that's actually a design issue that I'm going to get to in a bit. So okay, right, so it checks to see if you've added more things here. It checks to see if the inspector has been updated. Now, if the inspector has been updated, so it'll update the array of line interactables, objects that can interact with it. And if you change the gravity direction, then what it does is assigns gravity. It updates the material on the child objects. So now you can see, it used to be there were kind of a bunch of different cases, then a lot of kind of game logic was actually being done, and I've since moved it all out. So all this script does is it fills lines and it unfills lines. So it's really kind of setting up this API for other scripts to call it. And basically what it is you have the start filling line and you can set the time scale and the direction. Once a line has finished filling, there's a function that's called which is finish filling line. Having a double gravity cube fall on the top of the button doesn't actually really isn't different than having a single gravity cube fall on it. So again, unfilling line, you can set the time scale and the direction, and that's pretty much it. I think this is a legacy. This was something from before. It's force and fill line. It basically forces it to be unfilled, but I think we can actually. There used to be kind of separate functions for instant fill and instant unfill. The thing is, you can get rid of that with all this, because if you just set time scale to infinity, then that basically makes the fill happen instant. Yes, double gravity cubes. They're cubes that fall in two different directions. We'll get to that when we kind of jump back into the game. And then, so this is where, and also a lot of, previously a lot of it happened with this one function, set emission line fill info. And the problem with this was there's like a ton of parameters that it takes in, and eventually it just got a bit hard to read from a programming standpoint, so I made it, you split it up so it's filling and unfilling. Yeah, it checks to see if the line is filled, it checks to see if the line is unfilled. So that's pretty much it. So then what happens then is inside the, and again, this is another thing what I've done, right? Because, so you see I have this function called fill line and unfill line. And both of them are quite similar. And basically all they do is take in a bunch of values, and then eventually, there used to be a more generic one called set emission fill info. And it took one more parameter, which was whether that it was filling or unfilling, but it got too difficult to read, so it was easier just to have a function called fill line and another one called unfill line. These are kind of the tests I was doing before. And then basically what happens on the door is it listens to see, okay, when a line is lit up, this is called, it increases the number of lines that are active by 1. It calls a function to check if all the lines are filled. If yes, then we open the door. Let's check if all the lines are unfilled. And then if a single line is unfilled, if the required number of lines, if not all the lines are filled, then the door closes. So that's the logic. Now, one of the things that I was working on is, now the thing is, so I think Ed Rielfer's asking about, you know, what happens if you take a cube and you move it and you, well, okay, actually, first of all, another thing with the shader is, so this is what I was working on just before the stream started. And again, this is, I want to show you kind of the level of detail that I think, I don't know, maybe I might be going a little bit overboard here, but, all right, let's take a look at, yeah, I actually don't need this one. Okay, yeah, this isn't necessary. Okay, so let me just kind of show you what I was doing before and what the problem was. One second. I'm kind of commenting out sections because I don't want to destroy my previous work. Okay, so let's see. I think this should be working. Okay, so let's look at this. Alright, so this is our line. This is what it looks like in its off state. Okay, I'm going to click this. It's going to fill up the line, right? Okay, now look at this. Notice that what's happened is that it's actually applied the emission color to both the inside and the boundary lines. You see the black. I didn't really run down on the fill shader too much. I'm kind of talking D77. Hello, how's it going? I'm kind of talking about the shader right now. So again, check this out. We're gonna unfill the line. Okay, so you see it's got the black edges and then the inside is dark blue. Now, when I want the line to light up, right now it's applying both. There's like an emission color, this light blue, and it's getting applied both to the center of this line and those black edges and the black boundaries. So we'll check it out again. Okay, and that's not what I want. What I want is, I only want the middle of it to light up. Alright, so I'm going to show you, this is unfill, right? So you can see it's unfilling from a different direction. Reverse fill, it's going from bottom of the screen to top. Reverse unfill, again, it's going from bottom of the screen to top. If we want fill, that's going to come from top of the screen to bottom. Likewise with normal unfill, top of the screen to bottom. So I don't want the sides to light up. And so what we can do here, so this is filling, right? This is where it's applying the emission. And previously what it was doing was it took this value, this fixed d4, that's a vector with 4 values, which is the emission map. It's like taking the, I'm not sure if I can explain this super well, but basically what you get is for as the shader is going through every pixel, it gives me a vector with 4 values. The first 3 is the RGB, the color value, and the last one is the alpha. And so if we take d.rgb, that's the color of it then times the emission strength. And basically what we've done is we've taken the texture that's on the material and multiplied it by the emission color. So that's why we're getting blue applied to everything, because we've basically taken that entire texture and applied it to the color. Right. So how do you just say I don't want the black part to have emission applied to it? So my first attempt, I was just going to be like, well, you can do like a bad way to do this, because the thing is you actually want to avoid conditionals and shaders. And I was like, well, if C.R, so C is where it's the texture without the emission color multiplied to it. So if you're like, I was like, well, if C.R equals to 0, and C.B equals 0, because the thing is you want to make sure that for black, your R, your G, and your B values are all 0, right? So you could do it this way, but you would basically have 2 conditionals with it, because you can, I guess you can do, I don't think you can do 3 together, but so you can do 2, and then you'd have to, you know, do another, you know, if C.G equals to 0 as well. But basically then this is where dot value comes in, because so I created this other value, fixie, which is just 1, 1, 1. And then if you do the dot value, the dot product, which is place, takes the first number of this vector multiplied by the first number of this vector plus, let me just, so for those of you who don't know about the dot product, it's super, super useful. And we'll just explain it very quickly now. So basically, we have 2 vectors, A1, A, which consists of A1, A2, up to AN, B, which is B1, B2, up to BN. And all the dot product does is it takes the first value of A, multiplies it by the first value of B, then adds the second value of A multiplied by the second value of B, and so on and so forth, right? So basically what this does is it's C.R times 1 plus C.G times 1 plus C.B, so which is C.R plus C.G plus C.B. And if all those are less than 0.1, then we know that it's black. So basically at that point, I don't want emission applied to it. And then for all the other values, then yes, I do want emission applied to it. So that's basically, so if you're writing shaders, you kind of want to use dot products and cross products a lot. Now I'm not super good at it. You can also use matrix multiplications to avoid using conditionals. Again, I'm not super good at it, but this is not, I'm not calling this shader a whole ton. So it's not really an issue. Can't say, oh yeah, so D. Kilmer just said, you know, I could probably do this too. So that's basically, you just check to see. Oh, you know what? Okay, the reason why I didn't want to do this, I know why, is because I'm not always certain that it's like 100% black, right? Sometimes it's just like a really, really dark gray. With 0.1, it lets me, it's like I know I have enough room. It's like it doesn't have to be perfectly black. Whereas I think if I did C.RG, if I did something like this to see if it was equal to a vector 3 with all zeros, it'd have to be perfectly black. So, all right, so that was actually what was causing the, I don't know, for those of you who were coming in early, who tuned in earlier, I think you noticed that on unfilling it looked kind of weird. Excuse me. Oh, and if those of you who are new and are enjoying the stream, make sure to hit follow. It's kind of pretty cool to see the channel growing. So, okay, let's go to game. This is fill, and I think some of you noticed that the unfill looked. Wait a minute. Okay, so fill, that's working correctly. Now check out the unfill. So you can see with unfill, it's actually lighting up the. So this is not lighting up the border, but when we start to unfill it, you'll see the borders light up. So that's okay. So basically, what we need to do now is apply it to here as well. If time hasn't yet passed as UV, right? So okay, right. So again, we basically want to do this same thing here. And oh, right, okay, so you can see here I forgot to check if it's a corner piece. So even this might be adding too many conditionals. I basically added 6. Okay, so now let's check out. Oh, cool. Black isn't a changeable color either. Right, yeah. So Ryoku the Slayer points out black isn't a changeable color, so you can't have special stuff like specular. Right. Alright, so hey, Droati. I think you're new. I don't think I've seen your username here before. Or maybe you've just been lurking up until today. Alright, so let's look at it now. But yeah, I'm glad, good to hear that you're excited to get back and enroll into college for your degree in game software design. Alright, so let's take a look at this now. Go back to the game view. Where is this object? Alright, let's do fill. Okay. The reason why I have to pause it is because the mouse is synced up to your looking. So when I like move the mouse around, the screen moves, which just gets a little annoying. Okay, that's cool. So you can see now, reverse fill, reverse unfill. So only the center is lined up. That actually took quite a bit of time. Right. Alright, so we've got that working. Hey, BTN Games, how's it going? Yeah, conditionals are slow for shaders, right? Because it's being done by the GPU, and the GPU is great for making calculations, but it's not great for doing conditionals, right? That's for your CPU. So, I mean, you can do some really clever stuff with, like, if I really wanted to, I think I can get rid of all of this with shader multiplication, right? You kind of set up a matrix and multiply all this, but this isn't like a super resource heavy thing. Alright, so now I want to talk about, alright, so that's kind of how the programming is of it, and it took like all of Sunday and today working at it to kind of figure out how that should be structured. And the way that code is structured ties in a lot to the way I'm designing the levels as well, because it's, you know, these lines get used a whole ton, so the way I'm designing, it doesn't really affect puzzle design. Like, I'm not gonna not... If I have a really great idea for a puzzle, then I will make the programming work for it. I'm not gonna not design a puzzle just because I can't make the programming work. So let's have a look then at kind of this whole, like, okay, now let's have a look at how I can change what this line looks like. So you can see we've got, so so this is what I was saying before, right? All the things that's controlling how the line is working is on this square cube. So we can say, let's go with forward fill direction. So that means that the line is going to start from the square switch and go to the door. Forward unfill, that means when it unfills, it's also going to start from the square. We're going to make it, and for the purpose of this demo, I'm going to slow things down to 20. So line fill, and we are not going to do instant for this one. Alright, so let's jump in and take a look at this. So how do I get the time elapsed since the trigger? So actually that's something that's pretty clever. Let me answer a few questions. I don't know Playmaker, BTN Games. I'm doing great, you know, like the last 2 days I was just sort of stuck in the middle of this kind of programming this. So actually how it knows is actually basically for every single one of them I have a start time and end time that I calculate based on the length of this line and the time scale factor. And then what it does is every subsequent line, so it's got a start and an end time, and the start time for the first one I set, it's like we start now. All the other ones, their start time is the previous line's end time. So what gets really tricky is if you start turning off the line from the other side, you have to switch the order in which you're counting. Alright, so okay, so let's see here. We've got, again, let's go over the square. We've got forward fill direction. The fill is going to start from the square and go to the door. Forward unfill. When it unfills, it's also going to start from the square and go to the door. And notice that the unfill, this is also something that took a while to get right, is that the door isn't going to close until the unfill hits it. And again, we've slowed down the time a bit. We've chosen a low time scale for this so that we can kind of see it happening. So you can see that the door doesn't open until the line goes. Now watch me take it off, okay? The door is going to stay open until the unfill hits the door. Alright, you see that? The light travels to the door, now it opened. The light retrieves, now it closes. So there's a bunch of design problems that come with this because one, okay, here's one thing which my shader doesn't do, which is if the line starts lighting up, and let's say it lights up and stops here, like where the box is, let's say the line stops there. Let's say the light gets to here and then I move the box away. Unfortunately, what's going to happen is as soon as it starts unfilling, it assumes that the entire light has been lit up, and it won't unfill from where you filled up to. So watch, okay? We start filling, and you see that? You see that now the entire line is lit. I fill and now the entire line is lit. I start filling, now the entire line is lit. So. But the thing is, I actually don't want it this slow, right? Because right now, let's let it fill up. Because then, I don't want you to do this. Do you see that? You ran through it. Now you're trapped. That's actually going to break a ton of puzzles. And again, that's not the kind of thinking. This isn't the kind of game that I want you to have to feel like you're rushing. And I don't even want that to cross the player's mind. So it has to be very quick. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a super... Right, so let's go with like 100, because I do want you to see the effect, but I don't want you to... Okay, actually, no. Before we make it faster, let's also talk about... I'd love to get your guys' opinion on whether... So I think the fill direction should definitely be forward, right? You put the box on the square switch, and the light starts traveling from the square switch toward the door. If you put the box on the square switch and then the light traveled from the door to the switch, that just looks weird. In fact, I think we can try it. I don't know if I programmed that case in, because I think it just looks really weird. Hey, Ryoku the Slayer back. I didn't do much. I was just kind of running through this. So, right, so this is where, I think this is when the light is going to travel from the door to the square switch. And yeah, that just looks weird, right? It's like, this just doesn't make sense. So I think we can all agree that for filling, the light should always travel from, the light should always move forward from the square switch to the door. So it's going to be forward fill. It feels to me like it should unfill as if time were reversed. I'm not totally sure what you mean by that. Okay, so hold on. I think I know. So right now is... Okay, so right now when we unfill... Okay, so we fill and it light's moving forward. When we unfill, the unfill moves forward as well. And I think what David is saying is that the unfill should happen backwards, right? The unfill should come from the door. Okay. So... Right, no, I think David... Right, so David is saying that we should have... The fill should go like this, right? You put the box on the square, it lights up, we remove it, and the light comes back. Okay. Okay. So funny enough, this is actually what I had originally when the code was much more simpler, and then someone wanted to see it the other way, and now the code is a lot more complicated and a lot more robust. So, and this is one thing that took a really long time, is you'll notice that the door only closes, for this case, the door closes as soon as you take the box off. Okay, so everyone likes the door traveling, the door unfilling. Okay, this is actually what I had before. Oh man, we just like, I mean now it's like this like super robust system. Alright, what about line instant unfill? Okay, now, oh, so first of all, I don't think it would be 20, right? It would be... Now, technically, having the line go backwards like this is almost immediate. It might as well be instant unfill. So, this is... Okay, first of all, let's try it with, like, a much more reasonable timescale factor, which I think is probably, like, 100, because I want this to be super fast. Okay, see, Eddie thinks it should unfill from the switch, but I personally think it should unfill instantly. Okay, pretty sure Mangy Eyes is just trolling with saying filling and unfilling from the middle. I don't wanna... Alright. Alright, so this is actually the speed at which I want it to happen, right? You see that? Okay. Do I want it this way, or do I want... Okay, do I want, or do we do the instant unfill? So that one we're having, I think, yeah, I definitely think it should unfill from the door back to the square. Or, I mean, okay, so this makes sense, but having an instant unfill also makes sense, right? So is it instant unfill or yeah. Do we do it this way? Wait a minute. By having a fill, you're basically saying that the power has to flow. It does function the same with instant unfill and door to switch unfill. So it's more so actually instant unfill and door to switch unfill functionally are the same. And right now I'm actually just trying to, but so it's also not purely an aesthetic problem, because I do think it's not purely an aesthetic problem, because there is there is a puzzle later where you can build bridges with the lines, and all right, okay, I am spilling some stuff here. I am spoiling some stuff here, but okay, so for example, let's say I can place this square cube on a square here. Okay, if the user missed the cue of the fill, they'll be likely to catch the cue of the unfill. Captain Crunchbear, when you say fast unfill, fast unfill is not instant unfill, right? We're not gonna have slow unfill, because like I don't want players. So we're trying to decide between fast unfill or instant unfill. Okay, so if I do this, then it should. No, yeah, actually, you know what? I think it should be. I think I'm gonna go with the fast unfill, because it does. Yeah, actually, it's gonna be the fast unfill. Yes, it is going to be the fast unfill. Yes, it is going to be the fast unfill. That's it. Okay. Wow. This is actually the system I had a few weeks ago. And then we started, because the thing is, it's like if it was just that, it actually didn't have to be super complex. So I'll kind of show you the way the current system kind of takes into account all these situations where if you do like instant unfill and all that. I mean, it's obviously a much more robust, and I have a ton of control over it, and it's all the way better. I'm just it's like kind of taken. Yeah, I just wrote this like really robust system, and I've gotten the exact same result. But that's good though. I needed to really test it, right? And I couldn't, and I feel like this is a decision I'm very comfortable with, and that I know is the right decision. But I wouldn't have known that had I not gone through this test. So this is another example. So this, I think, was why it's like I was really excited to show you guys this, because this is, I feel, a very good example of how something that seems almost trivial, just this line, and whether we're having the light fill or unfill, which happens in a fraction of a second. How that's being done actually has some is like very, very much related to the design, and then there's the programming of all that, and this goes into, you know, it's got, we're writing C# scripts and shaders as well. So, and also the way part of it too is how do I want it organized in the hierarchy, because that's also going to make it, taking this into account is when I'm designing levels, how, you know, how much work it takes to set something up here is also affected. Yeah, Ed Riofer thinks we should still fill in and fill from the button. I actually don't think so, because one argument against that, well, first of all, I think David has a really good point that I want it to look like the energy is flowing from the square, and so when you take it out, the energy retracts back. Well, it might make more sense. No, you know what, Ed Riofer, it would only work if it looked like if we had kind of a moving, if we had a scrolling thing. You know, if we had multiple lines scrolling, then it would make sense to have it close out at the door. So right now it isn't, and I think it makes more sense that it travels from the door and then comes back. The other problem, or you know, we could make it a scrolling thing too. I did have that before, but I really didn't like the visuals. Now, the other problem is by having it unfill from the square and having it take some time to get to the door, it makes people think. It makes people think that there's. It basically causes a slight delay in between the time you take the cube off the square and the door closing, and it just gives people the wrong idea. Like, oh, maybe if I get it close enough, I can skip through it. Right, and I think it's also having the door to switch unfill means it's the reverse of the fill method, which does look more consistent. Cool. Well, we decided we're gonna go with forward fill and backwards unfill, and it's all going to be really quick. You know, it's like, here's the thing, I bet no one is going to notice it in the game. People will be like, yeah, did you notice there's like the line travels? And people are like, what? No. Did they even light up? Oh, right, because we have it set at, I think we have instant on that, which I don't want. So we're not going to do instant. It's going to be... Ryoku the Slayer, you said, I know I did the same thing with Portal, so I know that's exactly a thing that happens with players. Are you talking about trying to beat the door when you remove the cube? Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, we're gonna go with this one. It just feels the most... Oh, you know what? The other problem is I think this, I think also the square blue is a little bit too bright. So that's actually another thing. Ed Riofer, we're not much. We decided to overwrite your opinion. We're going with the fill as we have it now. Alright, so let's... should want to open this up. Square. Whoa. Okay, right. Yeah, I think Portal did a really good job with. I think they you know they did a lot of player testing, so I think like anytime you try to cheat the system, they prevent you from doing that. So basically, I would like this to be much darker. Oops. What is... Ah, right, it's okay. Actually, you know what, let's take a quick look at, 5171 to 05171. 0... that's actually a little bit too dark for me. Let's go with this. Eventually this is all gonna get replaced anyway when I do like an actual art pass on things. Right. Yeah, there was that one level. Portal really also had really good sound cues. Why am I not allowed to... Oh, right. Ah, okay. Okay, so there is actually one problem with the fast unfill. Which is that the square switch turns off. Well, I mean, it is close to the final art. It just, you know, there's always like what I meant was I think the color, you can see right now the color of the square and the color of the line are not the same. Eventually it needs to get fixed. Hanford, oh right, yeah, the window. So that's the only thing. Okay, like actually let's make this even darker to get our point across. When the line is... I did say art pass, but what I meant was, you know, at some point closer to when the game is going to get released, I need to just sit down and really, like, pick the colors and make them consistent across everywhere and clean up everything. And, like, right now I'm not really too worried about that. Right, so the one problem with the fast unfill is that as it's unfilling, the square is already off. Okay, so right now that's what the square off looks like, right? Okay, that's on. It's already... You see that? There's... Okay, let's slow it down. So that is actually... I forgot to bring that up, but that is one argument in favor of the instant unfill. You don't get that weird moment. Hold on. Alright, so... Right, so if we slow it down... Okay, you see it lights up to the door, and as it's unfilling, you see the switch is already off. In fact, I think this is what got people to start. Couldn't I trigger it like I did, like the way I did with the door? You mean like having the square appear to stay on for a little while longer? I guess I could. That would solve it. I mean, I think it's only just super noticeable because of this. Oops, we screwed up the direction there. Hold on. Yeah, actually, that's not a bad point. That's actually a pretty good idea. And I think there probably should be a fade with it. So, right. So it's like, see if we turn it off. Yeah, see, to me, it is like cutting the power. Because the problem with having it stay on and then slightly turn off is it looks kind of weird when the light to have the square switch. Hey, son of G-Days, how's it going? We're just trying to decide how the line should unfill here. Just make it really fast. I mean, it's good that the system is in place. Oh, and by the way, so I'm working with ProBuilder inside Unity, and if you are making a 3D game and are interested in ProBuilder, on Wednesday we have a very special surprise, and you will definitely want to check out the stream. So the wire takes a second to catch up, but the button is the thing actually controlling it. So the button says, "Oh, I'm off now," and the wire's like, "Okay, give me a sec, I'm turning off." Which is not good. The problem with reverse unfill is trying to take the cube off while the door isn't activated yet. You know, the thing is it happens so quickly. Oh yeah. Oh, no. So main GI has a really good point, which is the problem with reverse infill is trying to take the cube off while the door isn't activated. So right now I have instant infill, right? And this is at 100. This is a really fast line fill. But now imagine if so this is like, this is really fast, and I don't think I'd actually want a line faster than that. Like, to me, this is fast enough that we're really getting a ton of movement. Now the problem is, if I do this, now watch, it hasn't fully lit, and you see that? I take it off, it's like, boom, you see that? Like, this makes sense. But if I don't do the instant unfill, I mean, it would require me to write... Okay, watch. See that? Wait a minute, what? No, wait. Hold on. Let's just slow this down. Let's slow it down even more. Let's do like 5. Okay, right? If I start filling and I remove, you see that it always comes. Wait, Ryoku the Slayer, which effect do you like? And I'm not too sure what you mean because the wire may take a second, but the button is. Oh, I see. So you do like the. So but the thing is, I would need to write. I mean, I would need to add a way for the line to unfill from where you filled it to. And I'm not really sure I want to do that. It's a ton of work for like such a minuscule effect. Like it's literally milliseconds. Hey, Red Bulbs, how's it going? Okay, yeah. Well, have a good night. Thanks for stopping by. We're just debating deep philosophical questions of how this line should work, right? And it's like, here's the other thing: is if it starts unfilling, and I start the thing is, it's always going to happen super fast. Right, honestly, it's like it's gonna be happening at like 100 and it's happening pretty fast that I don't think anyone is going to notice. Alright, you know what? I think I'm gonna call it a night here. We're gonna leave it at this for now. Because I can't even notice, I don't even notice the whole thing like coming back. Maybe if I had longer lines, but I don't think, this is like a pretty good. Are there any line distances in the game large enough that the time would start to be an issue? Probably not, but the thing is I don't really like having... I always prefer having the systems to kind of be very comprehensive from the back end. Excuse me. Okay, you know what? We're gonna leave it like this. I think I'm done. I'm gonna look at other stuff. Oh, you know what? Before we finish, let's take a look at. Chris told me he's done some work with the color changing beams, so let's revisit those guys. Oh. Okay, so double gravity cubes don't change colors yet. Okay, so now what should happen is that when we rotate onto this surface, which is purple, this box should slide down and turn red. So that's what should happen. I know it wasn't happening last time and was causing some pretty amusing problems. But let's take a look now. Oh, what? So, okay, not fixed yet. Not fixed yet. Yeah, so it did change colors. It was just not, it was still active. So let's make this red. No, I didn't want to do that. Hold on. Okay, so this is yellow. So purple to yellow. Right, so let's see what happens if we fall down. Yeah, so the problem is it still stays active. So it doesn't become inactive. So you can see it's like I can pick it up and it's gonna fall in this direction. This is actually why I don't have this stuff. Like, people are like, well, why can't you pick up the box? And it's like, well, it's actually just really hard to see it. So yellow. Okay, so let's try this. So it is now being applied by the colors. It's just not. It doesn't become inactive. Yeah, so see it falls down that way. Ah, I fell through the wall. Okay. Alright, so we still have problems with the color changing beams, but those are the lines. I think it's good enough. I think that's gonna be it. I might work on it later if we do. Yeah, because it's been like 2 days on that, 2 full days, and there's a ton of other stuff to do, and really it doesn't impact puzzle design. So if there are line distances large enough where the timing starts to become an issue, then we'll deal with that. But I think for now it's pretty good. All right, so that was the line manager. I hope that gave all of you a good insight into how this game is being designed and why programming and design are kind of very much closely related. That was kind of what I've been doing these last 2 days, so it was kind of cool to be able to show you guys some of this stuff. And tomorrow we'll kind of maybe expand. I think this week will be mostly programming focused because I want to lock down a lot of these systems before moving on to doing more design. And you know, if you're new and you enjoyed the stream, make sure to follow. Otherwise, I will see you guys tomorrow. All right, see you guys.